Ann Coulter has a brand new book out, a big bestseller. If you haven't gotten it yet, go to Amazon or go to AnnCoulter.com. It's called Resistance is Futile. If you go to my Instagram, you can see the cover, or Twitter. Resistance is Futile. Brand new Ann Coulter book just came out. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Mark Simone?
Where are you? You on some kind of book tour now?
Yeah, I'm in Washington for the first week, but don't worry, I'll be back in New York next week.
And what do you do there in the swamp?
Let's see. I do a lot of the local podcasts like Breitbart and Daily Caller. I did Tucker. That was the actual reason I came here.
Oh, well, that's good.
He wasn't in studio anyway. So that was extremely unfortunate. And Breitbart's having a book party for me tonight. Oh, and I'm doing Yahoo News with Michael Isikoff later today.
Oh, very good. Now he's a very nice guy, but he is a little swampy, that guy.
I know. He wrote Russian Roulette. I think we're going to have a fun debate.
Well, this looks pretty bad for the president that he knows two guys who committed wire fraud 8 years ago. Doesn't it?
Oh, my gosh. Every little thing they say, it's the end, the noose is tightening. Oh, what if they flip? What if they flip? Flip on what? You have to assume crazy things, which, of course, the resistance does. But, by the way, this is explained beautifully in my book, Resistance is Futile, very, very short. You don't need to know a lot of boring details or a lot of boring laws. The point about Cohen is it's perfectly clear that this was always just to get at Trump. I mean, look, Cohen seems a little shady to me, so I'm not surprised they got him on some not paying taxes and a few other things having nothing to do with Trump. The fact that they throw in a campaign finance violation, oh, come on, as I describe in Resistance is Futile. Let's flash back to John Edwards having multimillionaire donors fund the lifestyle of his pregnant mistress when he was running for president of the United States. Are those donors still paying for her lifestyle? Were they just doing it? Was it unrelated to the campaign? Because that, of course, is the key and why I think it's highly unlikely. This is really a tough road to toe. To prove a campaign finance violation, they would have to prove that Trump wouldn't care, if Ivanka or his wife or Barron or the people who frequent his golf resorts in his name and his resorts, he wouldn't care if they all knew about this allegation, and it remains an allegation. I personally don't believe these women.
You don't?
Whether it's true or not true, it's a nuisance suit. Has he paid any other nuisance lawsuits in his lifetime?
Yeah, probably.
Has he paid anybody else?
Probably a lot.
I suspect he has. It's going to be very hard to prove that the only reason he did this was because he was running for president. I mean, this is always the trick with a lot of claims anyway about campaign finance violations. How about his payments to the florist at Mar-a-Lago? Because you have to have beautiful flowers there. If somebody walks into his resort and says, hey, those flowers are a little droopy, are they going to vote for him for president? Well, on that theory, any spending by any candidate can be said, this is to help you with your campaign. The law is not an ass. Moreover, even if guilty, the horrible thing that would happen is he'd have to pay a fine.
Well, everybody forgets in 2008, Obama had far more serious campaign violations. And
right.
all that happened was a fine. It was the biggest fine in history, but it was just a fine.
Right. But the fact that they made Michael Cohen plead guilty to campaign finance violation and say, no, Trump directed me to do this, and he was doing it just because of the campaign. It shows that the whole raid on Cohen's office, and, the same thing with Manafort, it's perfectly clear, as I say in the book, describing our one true Soviet import, is the special counsel's office. None of this has anything to do with any crime. It has nothing to do with Russia. It has nothing to do with collusion. It's just, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein writing a commission for Robert Mueller, basically saying, this guy Trump seems kind of sleazy to me. See if you can find anything.
Yeah. Well,
that isn't how law works in America. If you put 15 highly talented and really determined prosecutors examining the life of anyone, you're going to find something. You're going to find administrative violations, campaign finance violations, the most pathetic ones of the obviously political charges, tax cases. But if we're looking at whether sufficient taxes were paid on offshore accounts for money made outside of the country, Mueller better be going after George Soros next.
Yeah, or if you want to go back, tax violations, Al Sharpton is available.
Right. Except he might have yet another mysterious fire in his office destroying his tax records.
So, Mueller's not stupid. He must realize when I came into Manafort's house, put guns in his face, and when I locked him up, then when I put him in solitary, if he had anything to give me, he would have given it to me by now.
Yes, I must say Manafort is looking very impressive. I was never very happy. I liked the campaign when it was just Trump, Corey Lewandowski, and Hope Hicks. I think things were going just fine with just the three of them. Which, incidentally, as I also point out in Resistance is Futile, part of the madness of the Russian collusion narrative. And you don't need to know details. Don't worry, this is not a boring book. But it would be demented enough to claim that, the Ted Cruz campaign colluded with Russia or Marco Rubio. Why? Because, or rather, at least those campaigns had something resembling a campaign.
Yeah.
They had campaign managers, they had pollsters, they had, talking points and people going into preview areas and put together audiences. Trump's idea was something completely different we haven't seen in politics before. His idea was, I'll go around the country for 18 months giving speeches to 10,000, 20,000 person crowds, pushing popular ideas. And people will vote for me. And so they laughed at him at the time, but lo and behold, you actually don't need all these pollsters and campaign managers. He only had to take the campaign managers and the pollsters at the end, when he brought his kids in, and they said, well, this is the way it's done, Pop. But he didn't have anything that a normal campaign would consider a campaign manager. Why did he pick Manafort? Because nobody else would work for him.
Well, actually, there was a reason, because he was going into the convention and he asked around, can they steal my delegates? And everybody said, yeah.
Right.
And he asked around, who's the best floor manager in a convention? And that was Manafort's one great skill. That was all he was hired for.
Right. That I do remember that period where Trump kept winning, overwhelmingly winning primaries, and then 2 weeks later we'd read that somehow Ted Cruz had stolen them all.
Yeah, and he found out
that was the damnedest thing.
In a convention, the swamp can reassign all those delegates. So Manafort did the same thing for Gerald Ford and for others. That's the only thing he was brought in for. Convention over, he was fired. So everybody should get Ann Coulter's new book. It's excellent. It's called Resistance is Futile. This is a different kind of book. Is this like a 2018? It moves. It's faster than books are changing, aren't they?
Yes, very short chapters with lots of headings because I'm now a juvenile and part of the Twitter generation.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of important facts and lots of research because, as you know, I don't have a job, so I spend months on Nexus. And have I nailed these liars in the press.
And it's got the best chapter titles. Just get the book just to read the chapter titles. They're excellent. It's called Resistance is Futile, and you'll be on tour all over the place with this book. Resistance is Futile. Hey, nobody has found, they usually get you on one thing that they go ballistic over in the book. Nobody's found that thing yet.
That's true, and it's funny because the first edition, which you should totally get because it's going to be a collector's item, it does have some errors in it, especially that hideous one on page 170 that ruins a joke. Not really a joke, but a really good heading. It's just slipped in there with the rest of the text. About 4 or 5 books back, they decided every time we try to anathematize Coulter and turn her into David Duke and say, no, she's evil, she's bad, don't read this book. It ends up that the public likes her, buys her book, and hates us. Yeah. So let's just pretend she doesn't exist.
So,
that's the mainstream media's new approach to Ann Coulter. Not that new. It's been going on for a few books.
Yeah, you could have the number one book, yet you're not on the Today Show, whereas they'll have that stupid Amoroso on for an hour.
Right. No, I used to do all those shows, but that's why. No, I mean that isn't why. It's because the media are liars. But that's why the conclusion chapter to my book, which you really need to read the previous chapters to see it, but that it is we do have to kill the media for democracy to live.
Well, get the book. It's excellent. It's Ann Coulter's new book. It's called Resistance is Futile. Go to Amazon. It's out. You can get it delivered right away. Go to AnnCoulter.com. Get the new book.
Oh, and I'm having a book signing this Sunday in New York at the Met Club on 83rd Street, 3 p.m.
Oh, okay. Now, if we go to your website, we can get all the details, the address and everything?
I think so, or I guess I should put that up.
Yeah.
Oh, just put in Ann Coulter Metropolitan Republican Club.
Okay, put that in. You can go get your book signed. Resistance is Futile. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us.
Good to talk to you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Take care.